Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, October 9, 2018 Guilford Board of Education meeting. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is to take action on the minutes of September 11, 2018 regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes? So moved.
Second.
Changes, corrections, clarifications? Anything? I'm sorry?
No, sorry.
No? Okay, that's okay. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? And September 24, 2018 workshop meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Second.
Any corrections, changes, clarifications? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Item 4 on the next item on the agenda is public forum for topics on the board agenda. Is there anybody who wants to be heard on a topic on the agenda at this time? Okay. Mr. Sands reviewed expenditures for the month of September. What would you like to tell us?
Well, in September we really got going. The expenditures for the month were $5,028,883.39. Year-to-date expenditures through September, now this is fiscal year-to-date, through September 2018 were $11,326,309.19. And the comparable number last year was $11,743,890.57. The changes from one year to the other are mostly timing, because for example, the HSA payments to some of the employees are split this year into two parts, and last year they were paid all up front. There's certain timing adjustments like that. We also went through the warrants in great detail at the Operations Committee meeting, and I think we're understanding all of that. So I would propose that we accept the report for the month of September, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so that's a motion to approve expenditures in the amount of $5,028,883.39. Is there a second?
Second.
Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Communications, I know that we all have had some communications regarding the buses, and we'll talk about those maybe under Dr. Freeman's report as we get to the transportation update. I should note that we did have a trio of people from the bus company, from Specialty, attend the Operations Committee meeting, so maybe we can talk about that under Dr. Freeman's report. Are there any communications about any other issues? Okay. Then, Mr. Masseni, I think we're to the next item on the agenda is to introduce our new student representative.
Thank you. I think you all remember Noah. He's a senior. He's in our first cohort, IB cohort, and he'll be taking his examinations in the very near future. So we wish him the best. Very active at school. Our student Senate co-president does a real nice job here. A very humble young man, but pretty thorough in everything he does. Abby Pinkney is a junior at our school, and she fences for our team, and she is pretty low-key around our high school. She's under the radar a lot, and I think she'll add a good perspective to any questions throughout the year that you might have about our student body or about things that go on at the high school. And then Mia Bloss is a senior as well, and she is very active in our theater arts program. She also is in IB, will be graduating this year, and we're looking forward to seeing both of these IB students come the end of the year survive this and get through it. But they're doing a great job, and I think you'll enjoy their presence. They are very humble people, and they're very networked throughout the school. And I think they'll bring to you a very balanced and good perspective of what we're all about here.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Secretary.
you.
Well, I know you're the returning veteran, so do we want to start off with you?
Yeah. So from Adams Middle School, all 6 core teams have held team building activities focusing on the Adams Cares motto, which is community, attitude, respect, effort, and scholarship. And these help students get to know one another, and they also collaborate with all members of the team and the school. There was also the Welcome Back Dance, which was sponsored by Peer Helpers, and that was a great success. And fall sports are in full swing at Adams, and the teams are doing very well. And finally, from Adams, the 8th grade field trip to Yale Center for British Art challenged students to close read selected works of art and reflect in writing about what each artist was trying to communicate through the composition. And from Baldwin Middle School, there was a grade 5 team building trip to Camp Hazen for the 3rd year now with support from the PTO. They were able to send all grade 5 students to a full day of team building sessions at Camp Hazen in Chester. And while they were there, they participated in a variety of team-oriented and relationship building activities. Baldwin Middle School also hosted back to school night on the 25th for grade 5, the 24th, sorry, for grade 5 students, and the 25th for grade 6 students. And there are after-school clubs starting in late October, and some of the clubs include Running Club, Fitness Club, Drama Club, Art Club, Newspaper Club, and Makers Club.
From A.W. Cox Elementary School, this month they're focusing a lot particularly on kindness and learning to be kind to one another. So this is their kindness month, so they are handing out kindness cards to each other if they recognize acts of kindness. The teachers and the students can hand out the cards, and it's just supposed to reinforce positive kindness behaviors among the students. For the Guilford Fair Parade, A.W. Cox decorated a float with a beach theme in which they had Mr. Fragola dress up as a lifeguard and stand on top of the float. They won the first prize for the best use of costumes for that float. The 3rd graders at Cox are currently in the middle of their unit on metamorphosis, and they are raising their butterflies, and they are about to let them go and release them. From Guilford Lakes, the PTO before and after school enrichment programs have started, and that includes a variety of events such as tennis, musical theater, arts and crafts, chess, martial arts, and Zumba. So after and before school every day, students can enjoy all of those activities. The first Lakes Lions Pride Assembly was on October 5th. The topic was bus safety, so students viewed a video of the 4th graders demonstrating expected and unexpected behaviors and had a presentation from representatives of the bus company on proper bus safety. The student leadership model at Lakes has been revised and should begin next week. Rather than having 2 elected members from each class, as they have in the past, students are able to list their top 3 choices of activities which they will participate in for this year.
All right, and for Calvin Leet School, in September, the Calvin Leet's first graders walked to the Guilford Fairgrounds in order to experience exhibits focused on traditions past and present. And last week, Calvin Leet School kicked off the Choose Love movement, which is a year-long program that is intended to increase the social and emotional well-being of students. And the focus for October and November is courage. The courage to make safe and healthy decisions while encouraging others to do the same. And later this year, LEAT will focus on gratitude, forgiveness, and compassion. And for a recent school-wide Monday morning meeting, a 2nd grade class created a video called A Look at Calvin Leet Past and Present. They used historical information, artifacts, documents, timelines, and photographs in order to understand and share history of the school. And Mosa Jones School held their annual school welcome crowning for all of the kindergarten and new students and the staff. And they sang songs, 4th graders formed a bridge of friendship and mentoring for students to walk through, and 3rd graders made a crown for all the newbies. Students are finishing up their first math units and starting the 2nd units. They are learning about, in kindergarten, numbers to 10, in 1st grade, strategies for adding and subtracting to 10, In second grade, place value and measurement. In third grade, starting multiplication. And in fourth grade, multi-digit multiplication and early division. In English language arts, all grades have started the workshop model and reading and writing narrative texts and pieces. And the closed-circuit television show, Melissa Jones News, is up and running for the 4th year. The 4th grade students direct, produce, do the cameras and audios, and star in this show. And items such as birthdays, weather, shout-outs, interesting science news, and so forth are highlighted. And there is planned to be a large bus assembly in order to review safety rules and build positive relations with the bus drivers. That's that.
Now moving on to the high school, our fall sport have had a great start to their seasons. Girls and boys soccer, field hockey, and football have all picked up wins to start the season. And girls volleyball has had a standout opening to their season with an 11-2 record. And tonight they're at Cheshire playing a game. Seniors have been visiting colleges and preparing their applications, candidate statements, and letters of recommendations for their first application deadlines. And on Thursday the 11th at 6:30, the 19th annual college fair will be held. Back to school night was a success with 530 parents in attendance, and Spanish Honor Society hosted a bake sale. And finally, from the high school, I've discussed with several peers the later school start times, and the juniors and seniors that have the ability to drive themselves to school have reported being able to sleep in longer, and a recognizable difference that they've really enjoyed. And for people that have been on the bus, they've seen less of an impact, but they still have reported being able to sleep in a little bit longer.
Another thing happening at the high school very soon is the PSAT. The PSAT is happening tomorrow, and I know most of the juniors and a fair amount of sophomores will be taking it in preparation for the SAT junior year. That's good. The homecoming dance is also going to be held on November 3rd from 6:30 to 10 in the gym here at the high school. So I know the students have a lot to do with organizing that, so we're looking forward to it. I am a member of the second IB cohort, and I can speak to the fact that this year we are starting it off pretty well. We're wrapping up our first units for some of the classes and already wrapping up the second units for other classes, and we're all doing well and enjoying it very much.
All right, so the fall play Mr. Burns is in rehearsal and technical production, and the opening weekend of that is the weekend of November 8th. And as we mentioned earlier, for the first class of IB, we're getting ready for exams, which are in May. And there are 2 concerts. The choral concert is on the 17th, and the wind ensemble and symphony orchestra concerts are on the 25th.
That's it? Questions? It's a little bit busy start to the
Yeah,
school.
I was going to say that was fabulous.
Questions, comments, follow-up?
Good report.
It's like a lot going on.
What's
Busy
Mr.
start.
Burns about?
So it's about what happens to pop culture after the apocalypse. It's dark, funny, it's cool, it's strange. I really like it.
I have a question, if I may. 2 of you noted bus safety presentations at elementary schools. Do you know if those is that going to all the elementary schools, or do those particular schools contract?
No, that'll be happening at all
At
schools.
all of them? That's what I figured. Okay. Excellent.
Thank you very much, guys.
Any
Yeah.
other questions, any other comments? All right, well, you need to leave now and get
ready
some
for
sleep
your
for the
SAT.
SAT. Mia and Noah, you're welcome to stay, but if you have homework, IB second year is, at least my understanding, is a little busy, so you may want to take leave of it as well. But welcome, we're glad to have you joining us, and we
thank
look
you.
forward to hearing from you throughout the school year.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Good job.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, superintendent's report, item 8.
Yeah, I'll try to live up to that. I do want to note, the board took action at your workshop meeting on September 24th, but I did want to note for the community that the board has named Jason Scanziano as the new Director of Pupil Services. We're very happy with that appointment. Jason has been in the position as acting director since late July, early August, I think.
A while.
But we're happy to have him in that position full-time. Tomorrow, Jason and Mr. Macenti and I and a committee of volunteers will be interviewing candidates to fill the coordinator position here at the high school. So we hope to have a recommendation before you soon. I also have the official October 1 enrollment update for all of you. You have that in a variety of views in your packet. From the highest level, we have 3,292 students enrolled in our 7 schools this year. That is a reduction in enrollment of 70 students. Last year, during the budget process, we had projected a reduction of enrollment of 75, and so we came very close to being accurate with the reduction of 70 students. I do want to note, and you have the projection that we put together some time ago in your packet, the projected enrollment, based on the demographic work that we had done nearly 10 years ago now, was to be at 310 students. Was to be at 2,982, 310 higher. We are 310 students higher than we had put together in the demographic study. Other surrounding communities are losing students at rates like that in our demographic study. While we are seeing declines, they're simply not as precipitous as the declines that other communities are continuing to see. I'll also note that this projection times out next year, and so it is time to begin thinking about another demographic study to help us looking forward. I will note that when we received the demographic study, we noted that there were 3 variables that were not taken into account. The work that we were doing with special education in our district, the addition of full-day kindergarten services, and the opening of this new high school. So whether those 3 variables are the cause for the slower decline than other communities are seeing or not, it's just interesting to note and probably something we should consider doing moving forward. We've also given you 2 looks that at the lower grade levels allow you to see on this one-pager what grade sections, what class sections look like. You will notice at the elementary level that we're running average class sizes, pre-K through 4, of 18 students per class, and a distribution of our smallest classes coming in at around 14 or 15, and our largest sections being at the 4th grade and numbers of 21, 22, or 23. But distribution this year, in fact, flatter and much more consistent than it has been in some past years. And to that, what you have finally in this color-coded document is both a class size and historical comparison. It will allow you to look at specific class sizes in each elementary school back over time, all the way back to 2011 and 12. And we provide that for you later this year. I should be able to give you a better breakdown at the high school level, which will obviously be by course, more so than by grade level. But we'll be able to show you by IB, AP, and general level what the sizes of those classes are. October 1 is the official snapshot. We will certainly update you on any changes going forward, but the trend continues. A slow decline, but not as precipitous as in other neighboring like communities.
Okay. Questions, comments, thoughts?
Transportation.
So the last item I have to update you on tonight is transportation. I will start by noting that Mr. Bowden and Mr. Dorwin continue to work with bus runs. We opened this school year with a number of changes. We opened with new bell schedules at all 7 of our schools. We opened with some tighter windows in between those bell schedules. Additionally, we opened with a new bus company on site for the first time in 10 years, and along with that new company, a new management staff, a new software suite, a new GPS system, and a number of new drivers. So while the buses themselves were new, and that got positive reviews, the opening to school was a little bit bumpier, and the adjustment period was somewhat protracted compared to previous years. I will note that at this time, most of our buses are running predictably on time. We still have a few problem runs, and those problem runs would either be buses at the middle level that are coming in the AM and pushing right up against the start of our school day, forcing our students to be very rushed in the first few minutes of the morning. Or on the other end, they are some elementary buses that are arriving to the elementaries late and getting a late start onto the road. The good news is that we are clearing the roads completely pretty reliably by 4:30 or 4:35 at this time, which would be within the board policy parameters. STA has put some additional specialty transportation. Specialty transportation has brought on some additional staffing. We have one of our most veteran drivers who has been working reviewing those problem bus routes and working very closely with Mr. Dorwin to revise those problematic bus routes. We have been making steady, slow but steady progress. We are being careful to try to address the most problematic runs thoughtfully, intentionally, and essentially one at a time so that we can see if the changes are having the impact that we want those changes to have. Additionally, we have worked to bring on additional staffing at the schools. So in the mornings at the middle schools, we will have supervision available for students 15 minutes earlier than we have to date, which will allow some of our earlier buses to drop off earlier, leave the students supervised at the schools, and make it to their second middle school drop, which is really the problematic component, and it's what's causing students to be very rushed at the beginning of their school day. At the elementaries, we will be able to hold additional staff on for supervision until later in the afternoon to make sure that we're not asking teachers to stay beyond contractual time to supervise students until we can address those buses and have none of those buses that are arriving late. Again, Mr. Dorwin, Mr. Bowden are working very closely with specialty. We are making progress. I know that it continues to be frustrating for parents and for students who ride those few problematic runs. At this point, I'd say we've got well over 90% of the runs running as expected, and we're committed to solving those remaining problems. Expect to have those cleared up within the next few weeks.
Questions, comments? You know, I know we talked in the operations just want to remind parents and students, for that matter, that if there is a concern about anything that's happening on a bus, whether it's people standing or overcrowding or anything else, all the buses have video cameras. And so if you let the principal of your school know of a concern, the principal can contact specialty and review the video and find out. So that's I think that's one substantial improvement over the last contract that we had where we didn't have video in the buses. Other questions, comments, thoughts?
The only other thing I'd note, it was interesting to hear Noah make that part of his report today and note that students who are riding the bus, at least at the high school level, are seeing some improvement in their mornings, and that our older students who are driving to school are seeing significant improvement in their morning schedule, and the fact that they are recognizing a more relaxed morning and the ability to sleep in at least a few minutes later. It was nice to hear that. We've worked really hard to try to make that happen over the last 4 years and now over these last few weeks, and so it was nice to hear that the students are recognizing it and at least to some degree appreciative of the difference it's making for them.
And Dr. Balistraci did ask in the Operations Committee report that we'll get a report, actually, that since the buses all do have GPS now, that we can get a report and actually find out when the buses are actually delivering children to a particular school. So we're going to try to get some more data on that and see what's actually happening.
Yeah, we'll be able to give you an interim report almost immediately as we continue to make some changes, and then we're looking forward to having sort of a finalized report later in the school year once these changes have been finalized and the buses' routes have completely settled. But we can have that interim report for you at your next meeting.
Other questions, comments? Okay.
That makes for a short report.
Anything else?
My report
Okay,
tonight.
not that I'm asking for anything. Is there anything else?
I think last time it
Dr.
was
Keene says
about
no,
an hour.
there'll be nothing further. Board agenda. First item, 9.1, is to act on a personnel item. That is to ratify the resignation of Elizabeth Christensen for the purpose of retirement effective at the the holiday break, December 22nd, 2018. Phys ed teacher, 32 years at Baldwin. Is there a motion to ratify her resignation?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, with our thanks, that's a long time, obviously, and I assume that's a position you'd replace during,
Yes, we will be replacing with a long-term sub to take us through the end of the school year, and then we'll be planning moving forward for that position, absolutely.
okay. 9.2 is to act on the revised agreement for the child nutrition programs. Again, we talked about this in the Operations Committee meeting. Because of a bump at the state level, we are being asked to renew our single permanent agreement for participation in the National School Lunch Program and the School Breakfast Program. It would supersede any standing documents obtained or signed over the previous years, and this would include new language that the U.S. Department of Agriculture requires. So we need a motion for the to authorize our continued participation in the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program under the terms as provided by the State Department of Education, and that Dr. Freeman and Mr. Bowden be authorized to sign documents to reflect our participation.
So moved in both regards.
Okay,
Second.
All right. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Item 9.3 is to approve a donation from the Calvin Leet PTO of $3,271.44 for the purchase of 12 new Kenwood portable radios. And I take it that's for the, safety and security. Okay, so that would, in other words, allow teachers to communicate with administrators and with each other. Okay. Is there a motion that we approve that
So
donation?
moved. Second.
Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. How are we doing here, Mr. Casey? We're doing pretty well so far.
Admirably.
Yes. 9.4 is to act on a submission of the consolidated grants application, and that is an exhibit, a total of $233,930, broken apart by Title I, Title II, Part A, Title III, Part A, and Title IV, Part A, including about $8,000 through the Learn Consortium. So you need, what is the, Dr. Keene, is this your request?
Dr. Keene put
Yes,
together the summary
I
for
just
it.
need approval for me to make this application. These are federal entitlement grants, but I need Board of Education approval for me to make the application.
All right, so is there a motion then?
I'll move it. How much is
Okay.
it down there?
The motion's been made to approve the submission of federal program entitlements under the ESSA. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I should have asked if anybody had any questions. Does anybody have any questions or comments? This is about the same, I think it's about the same dollar value.
So, no, actually, if we can note, Mr. Billis, this is down about $130,000 over last year. We are asking for some clarification for the reason for that reduction. There had been, I'll pass this around, a logical and predictable decline over the last few years, and then recently we've seen real volatility in these numbers. So we have asked to please have a conversation, to please have that clarified. It's a reduction of 30% this year, and we don't understand exactly why that happened. So we've asked for some clarification, and we'll share that out with you once we receive it and understand it.
This is federal money,
These are federal dollars.
but it's administered by the state?
Correct. The state, well, each state is allocated a portion of federal dollars based on a formula. And then the state distributes based on a formula. And so it's pretty complicated, and you have to find out exactly what data that they're using. Typically, the data is about a year old before they grant this. Some of it is enrollment, some of it is free and reduced lunch eligibility. And, there's some other factors built in, but I'm just concerned about the volatility over the last 3 or 4 years.
Spike last year that we were very happy about, but now an unexplainable drop this year, and so we have asked for clarification.
Okay, well, let us know.
Your approval with the dollars that we know we have, and we'll go ahead and begin expending those. But
We
we'll
won't
let-
turn back the 233,000.
No, we're not turning back anything.
All right, 9.5 it's budget time already, to receive a preliminary budget timeline. That is an exhibit. I think really in the short term, the only thing that we want to highlight is for the Operations Committee, we'll be holding a hearing.
October 24th.
Right.
October 24th, I believe it's 7 p.m. in the Adams Chorus Room. That is your first open hearing with the public. I have had some communications with a number of community members and encouraged them to come forward on the 24th and share their ideas and make their requests known to all of us so that we can know that up front. 2 days before that, on October 22nd, you'll be meeting with the district leadership team as we begin the build for this year's budget.
And I guess we should just mention that we have, I think we've had a couple of emails from people asking for increased art instruction in the elementary schools. I'm missing one.
Art was a topic. There was some safety and security was a topic that I asked someone to come. There was a facility question. I encouraged someone to attend to speak with you.
Somebody actually came forward to me about a gymnastics team as well. So I don't know if, I encourage them to come.
And questions about increased recess time was
Right.
something
Right,
that you
that's
may
right.
hear
That
about.
was the other one I was
That was
thinking
the
about.
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So, and again, it's an open forum, so people could come with any suggestions.
Okay. Then 9.6 is to act on various recommendations from the Policy Committee. Do you want to present those?
Absolutely. The first is, again, these were policies and regulations that were brought to the board last month as receive items, and now we're asking you to act on them. New policy 4148. This is a social media policy. It falls under the topic of personnel. A brand new policy, and again, guides social media use. So I'm making a motion that the board accept this new policy as part of our policy.
Second.
Okay, questions, comments? And this is new because why? Is this?
We haven't had a,
We have been silent on employee use and participation in social media. It has been recommended to us by our labor attorneys that we have a policy that speaks to how staff members might engage in public discourse through social media.
Okay, and our labor attorneys are okay with this?
They are, yes, and they're positive
Supportive,
about this.
okay.
They're supportive of this.
Okay. All right, any other questions, comments? Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
so the next two items, new policy and new regulation 5132. Actually, the policy committee is going to ask to take that back just briefly because we recognized that we brought it to the board with a decision that hadn't been made about the policy in particular has some optional language. So my apologies to the board. We just failed to clean some of that up before bringing it to you. So we just want to take it back and make sure that the full policy committee has reviewed it. Rest assured that the activities that the policy and the regulation guide in terms of homeless students are presently being implemented in our school system. So, my first question was, would holding this policy and regulation vote up impact what's happening? And the answer was no. So we just want to make sure that we follow protocol and make sure that we clean up that one discrepancy before we bring it back. So I'm going to ask to put that on hold.
Okay.
Next, revisions to policy 4112, non-discrimination. This, the addition here to this policy is to cross-reference harassment, sexual harassment policy to make sure that this non-discrimination policy does in fact note and connect to our sexual harassment policy. So I'm making a motion that we accept this update to the non-discrimination policy 4112.
Second.
And the complaint form.
That goes in the regulation, so this is just the policy.
Oh, just the policy.
Yep.
So that's next. The first is the
Yep.
motion to approve the policy 4112 as amended.
Right.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And then the regulation 4112, you will note that part of this regulation in the very back has a form. It's a grievance form that personnel are able to use, and that we have, again, under alleged discrimination or harassment, again, tried to cross-reference sexual harassment so that the non-discrimination policy identifies that as well. So this is a motion to, that the board act on and support this updated regulation.
Second.
Okay. Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Terrific.
Okay, so we will, the policy committee will, again, review that homeless students and then bring it back to the board.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda is policy, is reports of committees, policy committee being first. Is there
Right.
anything else that we can be
Yes,
looking for?
well, so the policy committee met at the end of last month. We did have several members of the Shoreline Tech group there. This is a group of community members and parents who are concerned about the use of technology by students, or I should perhaps say overuse or concerns about inappropriate use, and are interested in kind of communicating with our school administrators about making sure that the use of technology, and in this case, particularly cell phone use in our schools, was the rules were followed, and that use was really limited to appropriate use in terms of classes. In particular, they came to us with a request that for grades 8 and below, so our middle schools and our elementary schools, all of which have no some variation on no cell phone use during the school day, that rule was enforced, and came to us with what we thought would be a discussion about policy, and turned into a very good discussion about whether, in fact, the individuals in the committee were looking for the policy committee to, in fact, alter or update or somehow revise our cell phone policy, or whether they are in fact looking for support from the administration to help really communicate the importance of not using cell phones inappropriately in our schools. The end of the discussion was that this group is, we invited them, if they're interested, to come back to us if they have specific interest in us considering updates to the policy, the district policy, and Gary Kazin provided them with a copy of our policy, or whether, in fact, they were more interested in engaging with us as a school system in helping support healthy cell phone use and non-cell phone use at inappropriate times. So that is where that discussion left. I think it was a useful discussion.
Yeah, I thought it
You
was
have a follow-up, I think, in terms of,
I'm going to be continuing the conversation with the Shoreline Tech Group, and they had pointed out that Mr. Henderson, who is the principal at Polson Middle School just next door, has had a lot of conversation on this topic, and so I have let Frank know that I'd like to speak to him about what they're doing around cell phones with their middle schools in Madison, and so we'll have both of those conversations. We'll continue that conversation moving forward.
right? So again, I think this is a group that is concerned, if I may try to kind of represent them, concerned about in general, just cell phone use among young people, right, and how problematic that can be. There are a number of people in this group, some of them psychologists, who are really concerned about the impact on kids in psychological and social ways. And so I think they're really wanting to kind of join us and urge us to make sure that we are sharing those concerns and doing all we can to promote kind of healthy use among students. Other than that, that was in fact
was most of the meeting.
95% of our meeting. And so I don't really have much more to report from out of the committee.
Okay. All right, Operations Committee?
We, met right before and discussed the financials. A lot of our meeting discussed transportation-related issues and solutions that should be in place over the next couple of weeks to really hopefully get us fully in gear and back on track. And so we look forward to that. And
3 members of Specialty Transportation joined us for that conversation.
yes.
Right.
And we have a new filtering and parent-teacher control software that the district has purchased, so we'll be on the lookout for some maybe parent discussion or forums and teaching us how to use that software in the community.
Correct.
So that's it. Ted, anything else that you can think of? Lots of projects that are now completed at the schools that have been underway throughout the summer and the beginning of the school year, so that's good.
Okay. Curriculum Committee?
We meet just prior to the workshop meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay, so then we'll get a report next time. All right. The Town Committee liaisons, anything town, relating to the town that we should know
Land
about?
Acquisition Committee met and didn't discuss any board business.
Okay. And the liaison to the Lurin Board of Directors, I understand, Mr.
Thursday,
Baglio,
yeah.
you're going tomorrow? Wednesday? Thursday?
Thursday, yes.
Okay, great. All right, item 11, public questions. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay. We do have an executive session this evening. We are still in negotiations with one of our bargaining units, the nurses group. So we need to go into executive session to chat about that. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, just so everybody understands, we will be coming out of executive session only for the purposes of adjourning, and there will be no further public votes on any item this evening. So thank you all very much.